What's good, everybody? Welcome back to episode 7 of All You Can Talk Sports. I am your host, Soupy, and we got your other host here, M-Carp on the other side. Mario, how's it going, man? How's your day?
I'm doing good. What's up? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. I didn't screw up the intro this time, so that's a good sign. All right, let's get started today. All right, we got a lot to talk about today. We got a lot of football as usual, but this time we got the World Series. Since we take the weekends off, we got to talk about all three games. Game 3 happened Friday. Game 4 happened Saturday. Yeah, I was right. And then Game 5 just happened last night and Sunday. Dodgers took 2 of those games. Rays took the one in Game 4 on Saturday. But first, let's talk about Game 3. Dodgers won that 162, absolutely dominated. Uh, Mario, what went wrong?
Well, first, I just don't think Tampa Bay had enough offense. Put it that way. I just don't think they did enough. And not only that, Walker Bueller went off. I mean, like you said, Walker Bueller, he's got a lot of great pitches. He's a great pitcher. And he's probably their best postseason pitcher, if you ask me, in my opinion. So, I mean, Walker Bueller was a big key for the Dodgers into winning this game. He had 10 Ks. Dude played spectacular. Yeah, basically, there's nothing I can really say. Besides that, he only let go of one run, 10 Ks.
Oh, he
He
did let
went,
go of a run. He did let go of a run, just to correct you.
yeah, I say he let go of one run.
Oh,
He
I thought you
had
said he
10
got rid of.
Ks. He went six. You good. He had six. Pitched 6 innings. You can't ask much more in a starting pitcher.
Pretty solid.
Anything you want to add to that?
Not really. I agree. The Dodgers showed up. Now let me talk about the wildest game of the series so far. Game 4 was interesting. I thought I was watching that. I watched like I think it was from the fifth inning on, and it was an interesting. Shush it. Sorry about that, but it's super
You
notification.
good?
Anyway, Game 4 was pretty interesting. The Rays won that one 8-7. Um, I can tell you right here and now because I watched this game. The Dodgers defense was terrible. And Dave Roberts is going back to that mistake that I told him last time before Game 2. You know, he left Kelly Jansen out, and I forgot who hit that game tying home run. I can't remember who it was. Let me look it up. I'm on the stat sheet right now. Um, it was in. I can't remember if it was a home run or if it was an RBI hit, but Kelly Jansen gave that up, and he left him in the ninth inning. And Kelly Jansen said something that I didn't like after that game. He said, because the game ended in an error in the outfield, and he had to throw
Right.
it in because Randy I can't even pronounce his last name, whatever. But threw it in, and then he bobbled the catcher bobbled the ball. Will Smith bobbled the ball, and the Randy kid was about to be a home. He could have tagged him out if he didn't bobble the ball. He stopped, he ran back, then he got rid of the ball. And that's how that game ended because he saw that the ball was away and he got to the base. Kelly Jansen's dummy ass was standing in front of the damn mound. He was on the mound the entire time. He has to protect his catcher like that. In a situation like that, you have to be behind the catcher. That ball goes by, he's not gonna have time. The catcher's not gonna have time to go back for that ball and tag the runner out. It's just that simple. And he
Yeah.
said, and and
Right.
he said in the press conference after the game, he said it doesn't matter. And I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. You could have won this game. You could have won this game, and that's what you do. That's what you say. That's not what you say. I love Kenley Jansen. I think he's gonna be a Hall of Famer when it's said and done. He's one of the better relievers in the game right now, and one of the better ones of all time. But you can't go in there with that attitude, man. You can't just stand and better. Yeah, you got to do your damn job. And in that situation,
Right.
you can't just go on the press conference after the game after you did that, you royally messed up like that and say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you could have won that game. It's that simple. And Dave and game 5, Dave Roberts did address my problems with him. Relying on relievers too damn much to give up runs. He actually managed to double down on that. That's something I think. That's something I think Dave Roberts needs to stop making mistakes for. If the relievers give up 1 or 2 runs, gotta take them out because the chances of them giving up more runs are pretty high. That's your bullpen too. You got to rely on them after your starters out. With that said, you anything want to add to that, Mario?
Yeah, well, I'll say the walk-off hit. It was hit by Brett Phillips on the Tampa Bay Rays, but I want to turn my attention to one Rays guy who really got my attention. He's been getting my attention this whole series because whether win or lose, he's probably been their best player. Arizarena
Oh yeah,
on the
Randy
Tampa Bay
Rosarina. That's how
Rays.
you say his name,
He
Rosarina.
a Rosarena,
Yeah,
a Rosarena, I think is their best player in this whole World Series.
win or, win or
I don't
lose.
think win or
I
lose. Because when guys are on an off day, he ain't. He's not on an off day.
He's balling absolutely. And by the way, that was the one Rosarina that I was talking about. He was
Right.
running down the third base line. He saw the ball go in Will Smith's glove. He stopped. It was funny. That was a funny run because this dude was running. He was hauling ass, man, and he came down the line and he tumbled on himself. I was like, oh man, this dude's gonna get tagged out. And I realized Will Smith didn't even get the ball. He bobbled it, and now it's at the back. So I'm like, oh, never mind. It doesn't matter. That was pretty funny. That was a pretty funny one. With that said, that was a pretty good game nonetheless. Even though the defense
Right.
kind of doubled down on the bed, but it was a good game nonetheless. Game 5, however, was a bit of a different story. Dodgers came back from that brutal loss. They won 4-2. Clayton Kershaw, man, this is the one I want to talk about the most. I gotta tell you something, man. Clayton Kershaw has proven me wrong about damn time, but at least he's doing it now. I gotta say to you, Mario. Let me ask you a question before I go on to explain the rest of this game. Do you really think Clayton Kershaw's clutch now after this game 5 win?
I think he's erasing the. I think he's erasing that criticism that is brought with him because he's such a great regular season pitcher, and then he enters the postseason, and then he just doesn't have the clutch moments. But I think he's finally starting to erase that. I think after the first 2 games of this World Series, which is a very important World Series for the Dodgers, especially the fact that you've been to the World Series 3 out of 4 years, and you lost those other 2 years, and he was a big part of why they lost those other 2 years because he messed up his starts. But this year it's completely different. It's a whole different story. He went 5 and 2/3 innings. He let go of 2 runs, 5 hits. He had 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. So he had a decent game. He didn't. I mean, was it like phenomenal game? No, but he had a good game. So I think he's finally starting to erase his criticism. And then Dustin May comes in for 1 and 2/3, and he does his job. Dustin May shuts him down. Um, Gonzalez shuts his guy down, and then Tremy, and then so basically, Dodgers pitching staff all around was great, and I think the Dodgers pitching is finally getting to the Rays. Now, this has been a close series. It's 3-2. The next game is tomorrow. It'll be a good thing for the Dodgers right now for that game to close it up. We'll preview it tomorrow,
Right.
but it's Gonsolin and Blake Snell. So basically, Blake Snell has to have a good game. He has to, in order for the race to stay alive, he has to be the Blake Snell that we know him to be, the Cy Young winner in the AL in the American League. And Gonsolin, he has to have a good game. He has to have a good game to close this out. But again, the next game for tomorrow, the most important person to win, not I'm sorry, not person, the most important team that needs to win is the Rays, and not just because if they lose one more game they're eliminated. It's not just that.
They
It's
need to keep that
because
season alive to force a game 7.
right. It's because if they can win, then it goes to the next pitching crew. And so you also got to make. So this is Rays got to win. You know what I'm saying? Like I know they got to win to stay alive. That's not what I'm talking. But the main purpose of this is it's just after this one right here. This is the most lopsided pitching matchup I think there is in this World Series between Blake Snell and Gonsolin. So after this, it's all clutch pitchers. You know what I'm saying? It's all elite pitchers who are going up against each other, and it's up for Blake Snell to keep it going. It's up for the next guy in the race to keep it going as well.
Right.
But if the Dodgers want to win this right now, if they don't want to force a game 7 and put it in the hands of 2 clutch pitchers, Gonsolin's going to have to show up. This game is most important to Gonsolin, in my opinion. Gonsolin is the most important pitcher, or he has the most approved right here. Gonsolin has the most approved in this game. But Blake Snell needs to win in order for his team to advance. The Rays need to win more than the Dodgers. But Gonsolin has more to prove than Blake Snell.
Because not Ryan Gon, Tony Gonsolin didn't do good in his first start. He got knocked out in the second inning. He needs to
Right.
show up, and the Dodgers had to rely on him in order to get things going. And I think tomorrow is going to be pretty interesting to see. Um. Anyway, we'll preview the game 6 tomorrow. It's on Fox at 8:08 p.m. First pitch 8:08 p.m. on Fox. Rays at Dodgers. It's going to be Snell versus Gonsolin. It's going to be very interesting to see this play out. Man, I gotta say, if this goes to a game 7, we should have a watch party. I don't know about you. That sounds pretty interesting. I think we
I don't know how
should.
we're gonna do that. We in two different states, but
I mean, we can do it like this and just put it on whatever. Be like, yeah, we'll just watch the
I
World Series.
guess. I guess we
I mean,
could.
we'll see.
We'll
We'll see.
see.
That is
Yeah.
if it go. That is if it does go to Game 7. We'll
Right.
figure that out. Well,
Right. You ready to
regardless.
get that Dodgers uniform because you're gonna be having to wear it.
Oh man. All right. All right. We'll figure that out. All right. Anyway,
All right.
next
Before
up.
we get to football, I want to touch up on Khabib and Gaethje. I want to. I want us to give our reactions on that fight. You want to start, or you want me to start?
Oh, it was a great fight, and like we said in the last episode, Justin Gaethje was Khabib's hardest fighter, most challenging fighter, and I think
So we thought.
despite so we thought, yeah, so we thought, and despite what we said, he still destroyed him in 2 rounds, which surprised me. I thought Justin Gaethje would go that long, and we say that he was his most challenging fighter. You got Conor McGregor over here that went that went 4 rounds with him somehow in some way. But I gotta give credit to both. They gave it their all. Just Khabib was the better fighter. That's really what it comes down to. Gaethje was hitting Khabib with those leg kicks, those nice head hits. But Khabib wouldn't just he wasn't gonna just lie down and die like that. He was gonna push forward, and eventually gave it his all, and he took him down, and he submitted him. That's really all what it came down to. And you know what? I think what really won Khabib this fight was his resilience. Had he not been as resilient as he was, I don't think he would have won.
Right. And a couple things I want to point out in this fight. You know, just oops, my notes almost fell. But Justin Gaethje. Let me tell you something, dude, about Justin Gaethje. Total of 63% of his strikes in total landed on Khabib, and these were hard hits. 64% significant strikes landed on Khabib. Okay, that's
Right.
Justin Gaethje. That's counting significant strikes as anything but a jab. So a kick, head kick, hook, uppercut, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Anything but a jab. All right. Khabib only lands 32.5% of every. He had 32.5% of his significant strikes. He had 32.5% of his total strikes. Khabib's striking was lackluster. And like I said, the one thing I pointed out about Khabib that was very underrated in his game was his striking defense. And Gaethje went through it. I'm gonna be honest with you. Justin Gaethje went through it. Justin Gaethje was clipping Khabib hard. He was kicking him his leg hard. Khabib is gonna have leg effects. I'll tell you that right now. Especially when we found out after the fight that Khabib was working with 2 injured toes and a broken foot 3 weeks ago. He's going to have that leg is going to need some icing. And so, look, I got to give Gaethje his respect. You know what I'm saying? I got to give him his respect. I'm going to say this. I don't know who the ref is, but that ref should be ashamed of himself. As a UFC ref, your job is to protect the fighter. And so I want to go back to Khabib. Khabib landed 2 out of 3 takedowns, too. I want to mention that. And Gaethje didn't attempt one, which is what I thought Gaethje was going to do, but he didn't do it. Let me tell you something. This ref, man, needs to do a better job. Your job as a UFC ref is to protect the fighter, to make sure that fighter does not suffer any damage that they shouldn't be suffering. I get it. It's a UFC. I understand it. It's a UFC sport, but your job is to stop the fight when you see too much damage going on. And so here's what I'm pissed about. I watched the fight. Okay, Gaethje gets into a triangle choke. He gets caught in a triangle choke. Okay, as soon as he gets caught in a triangle choke, Justin Gaethje taps. Okay, he
Yeah.
taps out. The ref does not see it. He doesn't see it. The ref does not see the tap. He literally taps immediately. I seen it. I was watching it on TV. He doesn't immediately see the tap. So Khabib doesn't let go. And when you have a submission expert like Khabib who knows how to finish guys in a submission, That is very important for the ref to break up that submission as soon as it happens. So he taps out. Then Gaethje taps out a second time, and he sees it. But by the time he sees it the second time, Gaethje is asleep. He's literally passed out. So, and this ref needs to do a better job because you are putting these fighters in more danger than what they should be.
I absolutely agree, man. That's some
You know, and a
tough.
lot of refs, they get criticized for like not stopping TKOs early enough or whatever like that. And I understand that. That's a very debatable topic. Some of them are not debatable, some are. Okay. But in a submission, when the guy clearly is tapping, you need to make sure that submission is let go right away. And I'm not trashing Khabib, okay? Khabib, I'm not saying well Khabib should have let it go, but no, because you're taught as a fighter, do not let that go until the ref breaks you off of him. And Khabib did a great job Khabib did his job of not doing that. But it's the ref's job to break up that submission, to make sure that Khabib does not get I'm not Khabib. I'm sorry. To make sure Gaethje does not suffer more damage than what he should. But I mean, Gaethje's healthy. You know, he said he would like to fight in 6 weeks. You know, because he doesn't feel like that much damage happened to him in this fight. He said he got clipped with a couple good shots, but that's about it. And again, you know, Khabib was Khabib. But you know what, man? Like, I want to give Khabib my respect. I really do. You know, condolences to him and his family on the death of his father. You know, it's something that people shouldn't not it's something that almost everybody in the world doesn't want to deal with, that your father, especially when you're close to him like Khabib was with his, you don't want to see him, you don't want to deal with the death of your father. You know, it's a tough thing to deal with, and I want to give
Right.
him my condolences. And I just want to give him my respect. 29-0, I think he is, in my opinion, top 5 greatest UFC fighter of all time. I
While
really I
while
really
we're on the
believe that.
topic of that, something very surprising happened at the end of that fight. Khabib announced his retirement. I did not expect. He
All right.
stunned the entire sports world with that. I did not think he was going to retire to that.
Well, his mother didn't want him fighting this fight. She didn't want him to fight while his father was dead. But Habib said to his mom that I have to do this to close this chapter out. I have to fight this fight in
It's
order to
something
close.
it's something his father would have wanted.
And see, I could see Connor coming back to the UFC in the future. I could really see that. Habib, unless you put that, the only time I could see him coming back is if George St. Pierre decides to come back and says, "I want to fight Habib." Then I could see Habib coming back because GSP is like an idol to Habib. GSP is an idol to Habib. You know, GSP is another guy. The UFC business is a business where there's a lot of trash talking that goes on. A lot. Boxing is a business where there's not as much, but there's still trash talking going on. Everybody's confident, so everybody believes they're the best. So they talk like they're the best. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Habib and GSP are the only people are very. I wouldn't want to say the only people. There are very few people in the UFC who are the most humble people you will ever see.
Right.
And so GSP is a big idol to Habib, just like GSP is a big idol to a lot of MMA fans around the world who probably want to pursue MMA. So the only way I could see Habib coming back is if GSP decides to come back and they have a fight. And I would love to see George St. Pierre versus Habib. And to be honest with you, bro, I'd still have Habib win that fight. But other than that, dude, Habib's gonna stay retired. Habib will stay retired. And even the GSP fight, that's like his only chance to come back. But even then, he might not even come back because GSP, because again, like he said, when I make a promise, I keep it. And I promised that this was going to be my last fight. And after watching him announce his retirement, I got goosebumps. I never got goosebumps from a UFC fighter retiring until I saw Khabib. I literally had goosebumps running down my spine. When he won, he was saying, Hamdulillah, and he was like praising God in his language, and he was saying like, "This is my last fight. I did it for my father." And you see him like on his knees in the middle of the octagon crying, and you see Gaethje going up to him and patting him on the back and everything like that. And credit to Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje,
Much
I
respect
love
from
this
him.
dude. This dude is probably one of the most respectful people I've ever seen in this game.
That was nothing but respect, nothing but love.
Right.
That's why I love about athletes. It's like even though you're in the heat of a moment in sports, you know, it's all about the respect at the end of the day. Whether it's a heated rivalry or not. It's just and that's why I respect athletes like Justin Gaethje.
Yeah.
Much respect to him. He could have just walked out of the octagon and said, let him have this moment alone." No, he actually went up to him, pat him on the shoulder, be like, "Hey, man, much respect," and that earns much respect from
Yeah,
me.
and I think Justin Gaethje is a big fighter of improvement. He lost. I remember he lost a couple fights like very recent of each other before this Khabib fight. Like he lost I think he lost to Poirier and he lost to um Eddie Alvarez, I think it was. I think that was the second guy. He lost to both of them in a very short period of time during a certain period of time, but then he ended up winning and winning and winning and winning and gained his rank back up. And I don't doubt for a second that Gaethje is going to be back in the title picture. I don't doubt that he will be a UFC lightweight champion. I do not doubt that one bit by Justin Gaethje. Um, this like I said, I think when you step into the lightweight division at UFC and Khabib is the champion, in my opinion, it is very unlikely to beat this man. Khabib, you people are practicing your wrestling as a little kid with like other wrestlers and stuff like that, which is cool. He's practicing with baby bears in Russian snow. Okay, the dude is from Russia, one of the most brutal places to ever live in, like both physically, mentally, emotionally. It is one of the most brutal places in the world to live in. And so Habib's years are just well ahead of everybody else's. And then you add like the type of fundamentals that you get off of school to that. Habib is an unstoppable dude when it comes to wrestling. And so this was just a fight I think that was too big on Gaethje's hands. It was too big on Poirier's hands. It was too big on McGregor's hands. It was too big on anybody that he fought. Anybody that he fought, it was just too. Habib was just too experienced as a wrestler to beat him. And credit to him, 29-0. I would, in my, as a fan, I wish he went 30-0. But you never want to. But you don't want to be. I'm not gonna force. I'm not gonna be like, oh, well, you should have went 30-0 because that's selfish. He retired because his father is no longer with him and he doesn't want to fight while his father is not alive. And that's a lot of respect to him. And
Absolutely.
so despite not being 30-0, I still think Khabib is the one of the greatest UFC fighters to ever live, and no doubt about it, he will be a future Hall of Famer.
Top five, in my opinion. It
Top
just
five. It's
without
easy.
without a
It's
doubt, without a doubt, it's just that simple. Anything else you want to add to this?
no, again, I hope Habib has a great life in retirement. I hope Justin Gaethje bounces back from this loss and ends up having great success in the UFC,
Much
and
respect.
we'll see what happens then.
Much much respect to both, man. All right. Next topic. Everything else from here on out is football. Mario, man, you already know I'm a little sad because now the Bucks are becoming even more competitive. Let me tell you why. AB joins the Bucks. Now, I don't think he can play this week. He didn't play last week because he's still on the suspension.
Nah,
His
they're saying he'll
suspension
probably
rises
play at
week
week
eight.
nine,
Week nine.
week 8 or 9.
Yeah, so he's not playing week 8 because his suspension is gonna be lifted. Um, I want to ask you, Mario, is this a good addition for the Bucks?
No, it's not. And I'm
Wow.
not gonna be like, and I'm not gonna say because his attitude and stuff like that. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with that. When you People don't realize, okay, you can look at a team and be like, oh my god, they got like 8 Pro Bowlers on their team and they're stacked and everything like that. Yeah, in that case they are. But when you have 8 Pro Bowlers on a team, something's got to give. You know what I'm saying? Something. And so, all right. So basically on that offense, you have Ronald Jones, who's actually a really good running back. You sign Leonard Fournette, who's not doing anything, basically, even though he was a Pro Bowler like 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. You sign LeSean McCoy, who's at like his last strings with that team in his career. You sign Rob Gronkowski. You have Cameron Brate. That's 5 already. You have OJ Howard. That's 6. Mike Evans, 7. Chris Godwin,
Chris
8.
Godwin,
And then
now
you have
Antonio
Scotty
Brown.
Miller. You have 9 out of 11 offensive targets. So like I said, the Bucks, okay? If I said this to you and you can vouch for me. If they get 10 wins and make the playoffs, I'll apologize.
I'll
But
apologize too.
honestly, they've been playing easy teams. A. B. They've been B, Tom Brady has not looked his best in every single game. Okay, but hey, besides last week he was pretty good, but I mean this week he was pretty good, but he hasn't been playing his best every single game. And so Antonio Brown being added to this team, I don't know, bro. Like it doesn't look right to me. It
Let
doesn't.
me let me tell you something. All right. Like you said about how they're not facing the only two good teams they faced so far was the Bears and the Packers. We already know what happened to the Packers. The Packers didn't show up that damn game. But I also want to go back to what you said, the offensive line. See, they're 5-2. Whatever. Fine. They're top in the NFC South. I don't think they should be, but whatever. Yeah, it is what it is. However, as far as I'm concerned, most of their offensive line isn't performing. Like you said, with the 8 Pro Bowler thing, how many of them exactly are performing to their fullest potential? Is my question to you. You know,
Right. And that's again going back to my point. When you add so many Pro Bowlers, other Pro Bowlers start performing at a level where they're not Pro Bowlers no more. It's like the NBA. If you have 5 All-Stars if you had a starting lineup of Damian Lillard, James Harden, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Joel Embiid, okay? If you had a starting lineup of those 5, okay, something's got to give. You know what I'm saying?
let me
You're
tell you
not
something
all
about
gonna
that.
you're not all gonna drop 30. You're
Let me
not
tell you
all gonna.
something. Because I absolutely agree with you. And let me tell you why. Let me tell everybody else why. And I say this every time, and Mario can vouch for me. One player cannot carry a team. It's that freaking simple. I don't even care if you're LeBron James. One player cannot carry a team. It's a team damn effort. Get it right. That's the one thing I don't like about this generation is that when one player goes to one team, they think, oh yeah, they're going to be on top of the world. It doesn't work that way. What I'm worried about with Antonio Brown going to the Bucks, chemistry, team chemistry. It's what it all comes down to. It's team chemistry because team chemistry, if it's good, the team's going to work together. They're going to win games. It's that damn simple. But and like you said, something's got to give. That's exactly my point. Team chemistry comes into play here because, like I said, I don't give a damn if you got 8 Pro Bowlers. If they're not performing and they're not involved in the team chemistry, they're not doing anything. It's that simple. And that's something I'm worried about. Antonio Brown is he really going to adapt? You know, um, I mean, in Pittsburgh, it was a different story. Pittsburgh was a little bit more of a toxic environment, but he wasn't he wasn't serving them any justice because he was the most toxic one on that team. So he wasn't really, serving the Steelers any justice. He screwed the Raiders out of whatever, and the Patriots don't need no explanation with that. But I want to tell you something. Bruce Arians isn't messing around with Antonio Brown because he went up on the record, and this is something I got from Breacher Report. He said, "Be a team player or be gone." Bruce Arians isn't playing around with Antonio Brown. If he's not going to be a team player, this is exactly my point. And I agree with Bruce Arians. You're not going to be a team player. Get your ass out of here. It's just that damn simple. And that's what I'm worried about. Like you said, 10 out of those 11 players, or 8 out of 10 of those, or whatever you said. So most of those are Pro Bowlers. You're absolutely correct, but how many of them are actually performing? I think really what it all comes down to is team chemistry. That's really what it comes down to here.
Well, I'll say this. I'll say, you know what? Because I don't like to just look at like one side. I like to look at both.
Right.
And so I can say this: Antonio Brown could really, really work for this team if, if, okay. Here's the thing. Back when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers, okay, I'll take that one for example. Back when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he was with Juju Smith. Him and Juju, okay, were like this 1-2 punch. But then Juju started becoming, he started slowly working into being the number one wide
The
receiver in
number one
that
wide
team.
receiver.
And the main reason for that is because Antonio Brown, which would leave are opening up, and that's happening with Juju too now because now Juju is looked at as a premier wide receiver and he's getting double team, which is creating openings for guys like the wide receivers like James Washington and Chase Claypool. So that's happening with the Steelers. That's exactly what happened with Antonio Brown. Now, here's the difference. Antonio Brown has not played in probably almost 2 years. No,
Right.
my bad. No, I'm sorry. I said that wrong. He played last year against the Dolphins, like in the beginning of the
And
year.
that
So
was
he
his
hasn't
only
played
game.
in he hasn't played in probably almost a year, maybe a little bit
A
longer.
little bit more
So
than that.
here's the thing. His whole mindset could possibly change because 2 years ago when you were with the Steelers, It was, I want to be number one. I want to be that guy. Now
Give
you're
me
on
the
a
ball
team.
of this. Give me the ball of
Yeah.
that.
Now you're on a team where that might not even be his biggest priority. Now it's like, hey, I'm finally on a team. Let me do what I can to stay on this team, or I'm not going to have a job. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
And
I
so it
and,
might
and
not.
I think
Let me. All right.
I think that's gonna be his biggest challenge. It's like you wanted to play with Tom Brady for the last year. He's been taunting the whole world. I want to play with Tom Brady again. This is what and I say this all the time, and it applies with life. You got to make a sacrifice. You got to get your head out of your rear end. And you want to play with Tom Brady so damn bad. Get your head out of your rear end and do what you got to do. That's just that simple.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. We don't know. We don't know how Antonio Brown changed his ways. We don't know.
Right.
Okay. We don't. We don't. I can't. I don't hang out with Antonio Brown every day. You don't. So we can't say what's really going to happen. All right. That's exactly what he needs to do. He needs to be a team player, just like Bruce Arians wants him to be. It's that simple. Okay. And you know what? Maybe that's what he'll start doing. Maybe he'll be like, look, I'm finally on a team. So let me take advantage of this being on a team. Let me do what I'm supposed to do as a player very well. And let me get back to being, maybe I'll slowly become getting back to the Antonio Brown that I used to be. It's as simple as that. Because I used to love Antonio Brown. I used to think he was very entertaining when he scored a touchdown. He would do all these silly dances and stuff. He would make the game. He was one of the very first wide receivers to make the NFL fun again. Put it that way. Because back in like the early 2000s, like late 90s, when we had Terrell Owens, and he would do all these crazy celebrations, and we would have Chad Johnson or Ocho Cinco, and he would do all his crazy celebrations. They would
Yeah.
make the game fun. And there was that time and period in the NFL where people would they do celebrations, but like it wouldn't be that fun. And Antonio Brown was one of the first guys to actually start doing TD celebrations and making it very, very fun. So so I used to like him in that perspective. Then he started having a little bit of, I want to say, mood swings, because that's exactly what it was. But again, who knows? Maybe Antonio Brown is willing to be a team player, and this works out very well for the Bucs. But I'll say this: if everybody is expecting to be a Pro Bowl wide receiver, and everybody's expected to have the stats of a Pro Bowl wide receiver, this will not work out.
There's going to be too much pressure if that's the case.
Right.
And honestly, I don't. As much as I haven't liked Antonio Brown the last couple of years, I do wish him well. Nonetheless, you
Yeah.
know,
Same.
I don't like being that kind of person. Be like, expecting the worst. No, I want him to do well. I want to see him do better. Even though he put this upon himself, I want to see him dig himself out of it and prove that he's once again one of the best talents in the NFL. It's that simple.
Right.
I think we got that. All right. We got next. Now, rest is football. You want to talk about Monday Night Football first, or do you want to save that for us?
Let's save that for last.
All right.
Let's save that for last, considering it's today later on.
All
Let's
right.
go to let's go to the winners and losers, Nate.
All right. Let me tell you my losers. Oh, this one's funny. This was a little funny this week. All right. Man, this wasn't easy. This was way too damn easy for me this week. But let me tell you something, man. I really hate that I'm putting this man on here. Cam Newton is just a flat out loser this week.
Right.
And
Well, before you start talking, that was one of my losers. So we'll just
all right.
talk about him. We'll just give our reasons
All
why he
right.
was a loser.
I'll say this: Cam Newton and the Patriots are losers, but I specifically want to talk about Cam Newton because he's the center of the team. He needs to, perform, and he didn't. 9 out of 15 completion attempts, 98 yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
Right.
I have no idea what the hell happened, man. I expected this game to be very close, and it wasn't. The Patriots didn't, the Patriots offense just couldn't get going. The defense couldn't get going either. They had absolutely no answers. And you know what? Talking to my friend, another excuse. There's no at this point. There's no excuses. You lost to the Broncos last week, and you just got your asses kicked this week. There's no excuses at this point. You got to
Right.
perform. I know you're without Brady. I get that, but you still got a fantastic team ahead of you. And you know what? This loss, honestly, this could say something about the Patriots. This could. I don't want to say it is the death of the dynasty. I won't say that because every time I say that, I get proven wrong. But this is a very steep downhill they're going down. I'm very worried about this team. I really am. I love Cam Newton. You already know he was my quarterback for the over 5 seasons. But this was just a horrible game, man. It was very, very horrible. I haven't seen anything like it since he played in Super Bowl 50, and I don't think that was even worse than that. I really don't. I think this performance last night from him was even worse than what he did in Super Bowl 50.
Right. And since you said the stats, I'll like touch up on it a little bit. It all comes down to how many times are you going to give the other offense the ball, the
Yeah,
opposing offense the ball. So if I'm over here just not getting like, first of all, you only completed 9 passes and you probably relied a lot on the run game, but clearly that didn't do anything because if it was, you'd have more points than just 6. But you go, how many times am I gonna be like, oh, we're 4-and-out, we're gonna punt it to them. They get a touchdown. Okay, whatever, cool. Okay, 4th-and-out again. Let's punt it to them. Now they get another touchdown. We throw a pick. They get another touchdown. Maybe they get a field goal this time. Those points start to add up, and you
right.
need to make sure that that your offense stays on that field until you start producing touchdowns and points. You got to rack up your points. You got to keep your head. You got to keep your team in this game, because and then especially when you're down by like 10 points, then it starts to become more crucial. And then you're down by 13, then it's very crucial. And then you're down by like 16, and it's extremely crucial until you get past that 16, and then all of a sudden it starts turning into a lopsided game. And that's exactly what happened with Cam Newton. He's the quarterback of this team. He didn't do his job. The running backs didn't do their job. You look at the Patriots defense, who was a really good defense, and they underperformed. They let go of 33 points to this team. If I'm correct, 33, right? The score was 33-6.
33-6, yes.
Yeah. So you can't keep doing this. You know what I'm saying? You cannot keep playing like this because it's not right.
Look,
You
I'll
know
say
what I'm
this.
saying? Like
Look, I'll say this. It's fine to have an off day. Everybody has one. But this was just I expected them to have some sort of momentum after losing to the Broncos, because that was a tough loss to soak in. It's the Denver Broncos. When was the last time they were good? But
right.
I it's tough because it was just such a downfall of momentum that this happened. And it's crazy. I thought it was gonna be a really close game, but they got blown out of the water. Nothing really went going for them. And it's just I can't really say it any other way.
Yeah, they basically stacked. They basically it's like the Niners were like it's like the Niners were like it's like they were each building like it looked like they were each building like a building, and it was like a race, and one was building, and then the other team just kept helping them build.
Yeah,
Either they it's like they were both building like a certain like building, and they would smash it, and they would smash their own building, or they would add more to their building so it would
right.
get bigger, and the Patriots just couldn't recover.
I know we're talking about losers, but since we're on this topic, I want to talk about one of my winners, and that's the 49ers. All right, I'll save my other two
Okay.
winners for last time, but I wanted to get to this one
Yeah, I'll let you
because
touch up on this entire
I want
subject.
to tell you why the 49ers are a winner. All right, and it goes beyond this game. They had an extremely, extremely rough start to 2020 season. I think they had the worst start out of any team. They lost their entire starting lineup. Joey Bosa's out for the year. Jimmy G was out for a couple weeks. They lost their secondaries. They were playing their practice squad for 2 weeks before the only
I
the
just
only
want to hang
starter.
on, hang on. I just want to correct you. It's Nick. Nick
Or it was
Bosa's
Nick
the
Bosa.
Niner.
My bad, my bad. I get the team mixed up all the time. But anyway, they were playing their C team for 2 weeks. I know they beat the Giants, but anybody can beat the Giants with their damn practice squad. It's that simple. But the only starter that was playing on that team in those 2 weeks was George Kittle. Everybody else was either a third string or a C
Garoppolo
player.
playing too.
Garoppolo started playing after
Yeah,
a couple weeks.
they had Debo Samuel as well. They had Kyle Juszczyk, who I think is the best fullback in the game without a
Right.
doubt.
They had nothing. And now they're starting to get their team back in the middle of the year. Their last 2 games against the Rams and the Patriots, those last 2 wins, in my eyes, those are statement wins. And the reason why I say that is because they're saying we're not going to lie down and die just yet. Yeah, we lost our entire starting lineup in secondary the first 3 weeks, but you know what? We're not going to let that affect us. We're going to still be competitive. That NFC West division is absolutely competitive. You got the Seahawks, you got the Cardinals, who are a good team now. The Rams are starting to bounce back after their bad season last year, and the 49ers are starting to bounce back after their horrific starts of the season. And you know what? I think that's a winner in my eyes. This win was more of a statement. This win against the Patriots, man, more of a statement win than the Rams. But I also got to tell you something else about this game. They only held the Patriots to 6 points. No touchdown. Those two 6 points were allowed by field goals. When was the last time you heard the Patriots getting held to 6 points? You know, I think this is a true statement win from the 49ers. I really think that they're actually bouncing back from this horrific start to the 2020 season. I think this was a true statement win from the 49ers. And I think
All
they're a
right.
true winner this week. Now,
All right,
back
Nate.
back to our losers. Number 2 is the Cowboys. This team is absolutely terrible, man. I expected so much from this team this year. You know, I get the NFC East isn't that great, but you know what? You were not the underdog in that division. You were supposed to be the team to pop out. Whatever. But anyway, in the last 2 games, let me tell you something about these last 2 games. They've allowed 63 unanswered points in the last 2 games. And in those 2 games, they've only scored 13 points. What the hell is going on here? I understand you lost Dak Prescott, but you have a lot of other players injured. But you can still work with what you got. And they can't do it. I don't know what the problem is. I really don't. And at this point, you know, at this point, it's no longer Mike McCarthy takes the blame, the defense takes the blame. Everybody's taking the blame at this point. It's just that damn simple. You can't be on a team that's stacked with all this talent and you only score 13 points in 2 games. That's unacceptable. This just that and out of those 13 points, you allowed 63 unanswered points scored on you. So I'm telling you right now, man, at the end of the season, there are going to be a lot of heads chopped off on this team, and I know we're going to get to this in a minute, but I think Mike McCarthy is going to be one of them because this is unacceptable. In my eyes, I think they're a bigger loser than the Patriots this week because there's no way in hell you go 2 weeks with only scoring 13 points. That's absolutely unacceptable. Compared to the other games, you were scoring over 30 damn points. What the hell happened? What the hell happened? I can't tell you for sure. Something's going on. Someone's got to step up in this locker room. You don't go 2 weeks letting 63 points score on you in 2 games, and then you only score 13 points in those 2 games combined. It's just someone's getting their head chopped off. It's that simple. This is unacceptable. It's
Right.
absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, it seems like the Cowboys are slowly losing confidence within every week. And like I mean, some guys that keep on just producing and producing. Amari Cooper, he's doing his job. Um, Ezekiel Elliott is a guy who still hasn't had 100 yards in a game this whole season, so he's got to step it up. I was talking to my roommate. I was like, he was talking about like giving it to Ezekiel Elliott because that's like your best player. I said yes, but the problem with that is when your best player isn't performing the way he should, you need to find other ways to
Work
get
around
it
it.
going. And so maybe that was Andy Dalton before he got hurt. But again, it's not as easy as we'll give it to your best player, because if your best player is not performing, how many times are you going to give it to him before we finally realize that he just won't perform? And it's up to Ezekiel Elliott to fix his game quick and immediately to help this team, because now you're the leader. Now I get the quarterback is the centerpiece, but now you are the leader of that offense, and it's your job to carry the load while the quarterbacks just can't. And I'll give this Ben this quarterback coming in, this rookie Ben DiNucci. He came out of James Madison, the one who came in for Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the answer. We don't know. We haven't seen enough of him, but maybe he's the answer. And the only way we're gonna find out if he is next week. I believe they play next week, but
Right.
that maybe he'll be the answer. Maybe Andy Dalton will come back and change and play better than what he has been playing, because even before he got hurt, Andy Dalton wasn't playing the best that he could. And yeah, basically they need more stars to play like stars. That's what it comes down to. You can't You know what I'm saying? Like they need Ezekiel Elliott to ball out. They need that defense to ball out, especially people like Leighton Vander Esch and Vander Esch and Jalen Brown. Trying to think. You drafted Trayvon Diggs. He needs to play better. You have Everson Griffin, DeMarcus Lawrence. You have all these key defenders, all these veterans, and they just got to play better, you know? And it's something that they're not doing. And we'll see what happens within these later weeks, but it's all coming down to stars playing like stars. And it's going to start with Ezekiel Elliott. He needs to have a big game because he hasn't been having any this year.
And the other thing is they lost to the team with no name in the Washington football team. They're in their division. That was a must-win game for them, and they failed to execute. And that's on them. It is. You know, they gotta make a comeback next week. All right. My third loser this week, the Atlanta Falcons. Do I even need to explain what they did? Because it just makes me sick to my stomach. I mean, all three of these losers just make me sick to my stomach. They allowed the Lions in the final seconds of the fourth quarter to come back and win the game. I can't freaking believe they did this. This is the third lead they've blown in the fourth quarter. Hold on. I think Urinating Tree posted this on Twitter. I seen this on Twitter. They had an over 96% chance to win that game. And they still, and let me tell you something. The other two games they blew against the Bears and the Cowboys, they had over 99% chance to win that game. And they blew all three of those leads. If I'm being honest with you, man, I'm starting to think Dan Quinn wasn't the problem. I wanted to say that Dan Quinn was a horrible head coach, and he really was. All right, there's no way in hell you blow a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl and you learn nothing from it. But these guys, let me tell you something. Yeah, here we go. This was the one against New England back in 2016 in the Super Bowl. They had a 99.6% chance to win that game. Against the Cowboys, 99.9% chance to win that game. And they blew that lead too. The one against the Bears, 99.3%. They blew that lead. And in this one against the Lions, a 96.6% chance to win this game. They blew all four of those leads in the fourth quarter. Someone's got to give on this one, man. Someone's got to. I think the same thing is going to happen in the Falcons that's going to happen in the Cowboys. Heads are getting chopped off. This is unacceptable. That's unacceptable. There's no way you blow three leads with over 95% chances of winning. That's just unacceptable.
Well, this loss is a little different than the others. And I'm not justifying the Falcons or anything like that, but I'll say the two things that are different is one guy that is really to blame, and he was mad after the game too, was Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley was near the end zone, and if he just fell, and if he just he scored a touchdown, but that touchdown cost him the game because you left more time on the clock. What he wanted to do is he just wanted to fall down, not get the touchdown, run the clock down, and they would have ran it down, kicked the field goal, and they would have won. But he scored a touchdown too early, and because of that, he ended up, and the Lions had more time to win that game. So that's a big one. The other big one is, I think the Lions kicker, he kicked the game winner, and so Falcons. It's not like it was a very, very close field goal. You know, it had some distance to it. You know, and he and basically the Lions kicker just clutched up and won the game. So this one's different. This one comes down to like they did screw up, and there's no justification for the leads that they've blown. But this one came right. But this one came down to the Lions coming in clutch in those last seconds, and Todd Gurley accidentally getting into the end zone. Unlike the other games, it's completely blown it. This one, it was less blown and more like the Lions end up earning it with those last things. But before those two events occurred, it's the same story. You know, they had a lead and they blew it, just like you said, and it's something that they can't keep doing. And I don't know who to. And honestly, for those, I don't know who to blame. You know, maybe they just take their eyes off the prize. Maybe they sit some people down. I don't know what goes on. I don't know what happens. But
I can tell you, I can tell you the last two leads they've blown. That's on Dan Quinn. He got too damn comfortable with the lead, and you know what? At the end of the day, that's what cost them. But this game is a little different. Dan Quinn's gone. He's fired. There's no, they got fired in week 5 after they lost to the Panthers. It personally for me, I don't even think it was the coach's fault. To me, it was somewhat of his fault, but not completely like the other 2 times. I think Dan Quinn got a little too comfortable with that lead. With the Cowboys, he had a 26-10 lead. That's over a 15-point lead, and he got way too comfortable with that. He let the Cowboys come back that easily. Same thing in the Super Bowl when he was coaching them. He got too comfortable with that 28-3 lead, and they blew it. And it's same thing with the Bears, and the week after that loss to the Cowboys, he got too comfortable. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was a 26-10 lead as well. I could be wrong. You could correct me if you need to, but I think it was a 26-10. And this one's different. And you're absolutely right. It's very different because not only is Dan Quinn no longer here, but I think the team just kind of collapsed on itself. And Todd Gurley's smart. He should have he should have fell and let the clock run down. You had a little less than 3 minutes left in that game. You gave him too much time. That's the problem. I think that's why they. And you know what? I think team chemistry failed on them this time around, and I think that's what cost them the game. That it's just that simple. They should have listened to Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley is a veteran. He knows what he's doing. He's been in the league for almost 10 years now, maybe a little less than that. And he has that IQ. He was right about the letting that clock run down. You run down the clock, you're gonna give the other team less time to score, and they failed to execute. That's on them.
I agree. All right, Nate, you got winners, all right? Let's get off this. Again, we always start with the depressing losers. We never get to the winners. Is that so? Give me your winners, Nate. Come on, let's switch.
I have a bonus loser in the Jets, but we're not going to talk about them because they're always losers. But let's go to our winners real quick. Let me tell you something, man. Joe Burrow is one of my winners this week. Let me tell you why. I already told you guys I like Joe Burrow. I already told you this guy was going to ball out, and he absolutely balled out this week, despite him losing to the Browns. He balled out 35 for 47 completion attempts. Great, that's great. Kept the mistakes to a minimum. That's good. He had 6 rushing attempts, 440 yards, 4 touchdowns. I don't think I need to explain anymore. That's just downright incredible. I mean, and he's doing this with a team that barely has any talent on it. I give him much respect for that. And I'm telling you right now, if he can build around this, if the Bengals can build around Joe Burrow, get some veteran stars, get some nice young talent, this team is going to be absolutely explosive. And I'm excuse me. And I'm excited to see where this team goes in the future. And I think that's something the Bengals need to learn. They got one of the more talented quarterbacks of our generation. Quite possibly. You got to build around that talent. And I think the Bengals need to learn from their past mistakes and do exactly that. Anything you want to
add? All right. Nah, again, that game was a shootout, and it was between him and Baker. And again, Baker Mayfield, you can also make a case as him as a winner because he played very good too.
He played very great.
He's not part of my winners list, but although if I could choose more than 3, he definitely would be.
Yeah.
But again, this was a shootout, and it all came down to who had that ball last, and the Browns ended up securing.
I want to go back to my winners. I have one more because I already discussed my third winner in the Patriots 49ers discussion. Justin Herbert's my next winner. Let me tell you why. And I said this when he first started with the Chiefs. Despite him losing, the performance he had against Kansas City in week 2, if he kept that up, he's going to be a star. And you know what? That's exactly what he did. Let me tell you a little something. 27 for 43 completion attempts. That could be better. I'll admit. That could be a little better. I'm not sure if I'm doing my math correctly here. It's a little over 50%. That could use some work. But the rest of it's crazy. 9 rushing attempts, 412 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Let me tell you a little something about Justin Herbert, right? And I think in my opinion, aside from Joe Burrow, he's the best. He was the best draft. He was the best draft pick. It's without a doubt. This kid's playing, and you can disagree with me on this. I really don't care. This kid's playing like a top 10 quarterback in the league. It's not that damn simple. It's that damn simple. This kid's balling. I know he's doing it with the Chargers. He's in the same situation as Joe Burrow, only Justin Herbert has more offensive talent on his side. Just his defense needs to step up a little bit. But Justin Herbert, man, I think if he keeps on doing this, and the Chargers build up their defense in the coming years, expect this team to ride hot in the playoffs. Because Justin Herbert, man, that kid's something truly special. And I got scared when my Panthers faced him. I really did. But this kid can ball. It's just that simple. And I think if he keeps this up in the years coming, you will expect the Chargers in the playoffs. And I truly don't think that the Chargers are going to go back to Tyrod Taylor. I really don't think so because of Justin Herbert. The way Justin Herbert's been playing, it's kind of hard to justify putting Tyrod Taylor in over Justin Herbert. If I was the head coach of that team, I wouldn't do that. As much respect as I have for Tyrod Taylor, the way Justin Herbert's been playing, I don't think I think I just keep Tyrod Taylor as a backup just in case.
Yeah, I mean, some people can even make a case that he might have a better rookie than Joe Burrow. Personally, I don't think he's the best rookie in this draft, in my opinion.
Right.
I'm not gonna get on that topic because it's not about that. But past 2 games, dude's been amazing. You know, like Justin Herbert reminds me of roughneck football. You know, he's not afraid. He's not afraid to take a risk.
Got the
You seen
IQ.
that when he went for the rushing touchdown, he dove and he's not afraid of risking his body. He throws deep balls like Brett Favre can, and he's not afraid to take chances. And that's a lot of things that quarterbacks don't want to do. So a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL today are really passive, and that's not a bad thing. It's not
Yeah.
really, but he reminds me of like roughneck football right there, Justin Herbert, and I gotta give him my respect. He's been a winner these past few weeks. He's been a winner even when he's lost. So credit to Justin Herbert. If he keeps this again, if he keeps this, we don't know what's gonna happen the next year to come and in the following year or whatever. But Justin Herbert is playing very, very good right now, and there's nothing more to really add. He's racking up yards, he's racking up passing TDs. He can run the ball if you ask him to, and so
I think
him and Joe Burrow, you can make an argument on who you want to pick, but Joe Burrow has been balling out.
absolutely.
I mean,
And
I'm sorry, Justin Herbert has been balling
just
out.
absolutely. And right now, I was on ESPN earlier this morning, and it's coming down to the two wires with Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert for the Rookie of the Year, and it's tough. It's only week 7, so we'll see. But Justin Herbert's just he's a force to be reckoned with. I think if he continues what he's doing in the years to come, he's going to be a serious threat to Patrick Mahomes because we already know Patrick Mahomes is ruling AFC right now. The only other fierce competitor he has is Lamar Jackson, and even he hasn't really done great against um Patrick Mahomes. Justin Herbert had to face Patrick Mahomes in week 2. He held his own, and I think if Justin Herbert can keep it up, he's gonna be a fierce competitor to Patrick Mahomes. It's just that simple.
All right, my winners and losers. Let's start with the winners. So, first for the winners, I have the Washington football team's defense, and the reason why I have them as the winners of this defense is they let go of 114 total passing yards. They let go of 83 total rushing yards. They had one interception. They had 2 forced fumbles and they had 6 total sacks. Montez Sweat was probably the MVP of that defense. He had a forced fumble. He had 2 sacks, so I got to give him credit. Yeah, they held the Cowboys to 3 points, I believe it was.
3. Yeah, it was 3.
20, they held the Cowboys to 3 points, and I mean the Washington football team, that defense really made a name. They got Chase Young back, and that's a really big factor in their team. So glad to see him healthy and playing at a high level.
Right. I am
But
too.
I could give credit to that offense, but I think the defense deserves even more credit to holding that Cowboys team to 3 points. They Washington, I think they performed less than the Cardinals against the Cowboys, but despite the 3 points, like if you looked at what the Cardinals did and the turnovers that they forced and the types of stuff they were doing,
The
I
football
think the
team just
Cardinals
didn't.
played better than the Washington football team. But this week, I think the Washington football team was the best defense on that field.
Absolutely, I 100% agree.
All
It's
right,
funny for me to say that because the team with no name actually did a thing. It's good
right,
to see. It's good to
right.
see.
All right, second, Tyler Lockett on the Seattle Seahawks. He had 15 receptions, 200 yards, and 3 TDs. I mean, there's nothing else I can say, man. Like, do I have to talk about it? I know they went into overtime, but do I have to talk? I know they lost, but Tyler
Let me tell
Lockett is
let me
definitely a
tell you a
winner
little
this
something.
week.
So I have 2 fantasy teams. I have the one with you in our league, and I have another league. Tyler Lockett in my other league. He put up 53 points for me in fantasy. That dude went off, man. He went off. I needed him to because I was going to lose that game, but I didn't because of him. I'm glad he showed up.
And yeah, so I mean, he was Russell Wilson's main guy. Russell Wilson had a good game, but I mean, Russell Wilson had a decent game. He threw 3 picks, had 3 TDs, but again, what really kept him in this game was Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett showed up, showed out. He had 200 yards, and basically, you can't ask for much more in a wide receiver. 200 yards, three TDs. You can't ask for much more. And my third winner today is and I want to add a fourth one. I want to add a bonus because I thought you were going to talk about him, which is the reason why I didn't pick him. But we're gonna have to talk about this bonus for sure. But before I get to the bonus, my third winner is Tom Brady, and that's a guy you had as your winner last week. And
Yeah,
I was
right.
like, you know what? He really didn't do a lot, so like I really couldn't call him a winner. This week it's different. He
Yeah,
went 33 for
absolutely.
45, 369 yards and 4 TDs,
That's good.
and he helped the Buccaneers beat the Las Vegas Raiders, and so. And so I think that Tom Brady played very well. I think he threw the ball very efficiently. I think he looked like an elite quarterback yesterday.
Let me tell you
Yesterday,
something.
and again, you can't really. And again, like you said, just like with Tyler Lockett, you can't ask for much more in a wide receiver. You can't ask much more in a quarterback. And Tom Brady, he had kind of like an average game last week, but this week he showed up and showed out.
No, this week, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I was gonna put him on my winners, believe it or not, again. But Justin Herbert just balled out, and I think he just played better than Tom Brady overall. So I definitely agree with you on that. All right, now who was the
And
one you said was
wait,
your
wait.
winners?
Oh yeah, my bonuses. My one bonus. My one bonus. I thought you were gonna add him because I thought you said you were gonna add him, but you didn't. Devontae Adams. That's the guy we didn't.
Oh,
That's the guy I
really?
feel like we should. Yeah, Devontae Adams, 13 receptions, 196 yards with 2 TDs on
I
16
thought
targets.
I thought you were gonna say Kyler Murray because he balled out too.
Yeah, no, I think Devontae Adams and Tyler Lockett were the stars this week, and Tyler Lockett I think played better than Devontae Adams, but Devontae Adams, even though despite him being a Packer, and I'm not a big fan of the Packers, Devontae Adams is he balled out. He gave Aaron Rodgers light after them
Right.
losing last game. He gave Aaron Rodgers a lot of light, and Devontae Adams again had it. He had his career high in receiving yards with 196. He had 13 catches, 2 TD, and again, there's nothing. Again, there's not much more I can say. Devontae Adams is an elite wide receiver in this game. Devontae Adams is amazing as a wide receiver. He's probably out of this whole NFC North division more than Khalil Mack, more than Galladay and Marvin Jones in that Lions team. He is, in my opinion, the most dangerous threat in that NFC North.
I absolutely
In
agree.
my opinion, it's Devontae Adams is a guy that you got to watch out for. You just got to recognize that he's there, and you can't let him have a day. But it's very impossible not to let him have a day because he's Devontae Adams and he does everything so well. And I think I don't think he's underrated, but I think he deserves a lot more credit than what he gets.
I absolutely agree, man. I really
Now I'll
do.
go. Now I'll go to my losers. So I already talked about the discussion with you with Cam Newton, so we're gonna skip that. David Johnson, that's another loser of mine. It's the Texans. I get that they're going up against the Green Bay Packers, but the Green Bay Packers, they've had some problems with their defense, and this is a game where you would have expected David Johnson to show up and show out, but instead, he had 14 rushes, 42 yards. He averaged 3 yards a carry and he had a fumble. Okay, like I said, when you force the ball into your quarterback's hand, and don't get me wrong, Deshaun Watson is a great quarterback. Don't get me, he really is. But again, we cannot keep having you cannot keep having your quarterback throw and throw and throw and throw every single play. Sometimes it just won't work out. You need your
Right.
running back to step up. And David Johnson, as a starting running back, he just didn't do that. He fumbled the ball once. You had plenty of just something happen with 14 rush attempts. I mean, with 14 attempts, and you only had 42 yards. So there's a problem there. And this is a big problem in the Texans team. You traded DeAndre Hopkins basically for David Johnson, and David Johnson has not been performing every single week the way you need him to. DeAndre Hopkins has, and this was one thing I said. I said it's all going to come down to, despite how bad the trade looks, it's all going to come down to how good David Johnson plays and what you're going to do with that pick. And I
Well, I'll
haven't
say
seen
this.
anything, and I haven't seen anything good for out of both of them.
Well, I'll
So
say. Well, I'll say
Cardinals are
this.
obvious.
I'll say this
Well,
because
let me finish.
all right.
Cardinals. Let me finish. Cardinals. Obviously, Cardinals are winning this trade. They have the winning record. Kyler Murray, in my opinion, I think has been playing better than Deshaun
Deshaun
Watson this
Watson.
year. David Johnson has not been producing. I haven't heard anything from that pick that you traded away to get DeAndre Hopkins to give away DeAndre Hopkins, and it's very depressing for the Texans to be doing that type of stuff.
Well, I'll say this because you know the reason why they're in this mess is because of Bill O'Brien. It's that simple. I've told you for many years that this guy is not a good head coach. I've told
Yeah,
you
but
this for
Bill
many
O'Brien's
years.
not there no more.
Exactly,
Yeah, but
but
Bill
I'm
O'Brien is not
saying
there no more. So there's no. So the problem is you cannot blame. There's no blame for Bill O'Brien no more. There is none. There is none. I get you can blame him for the trade and everything, but there is no blame right now for him.
but I'll
Okay,
also
because it's
say
up
this.
to the.
I'll also
Again,
say
like you
this.
say. Wait, listen. Like you said though. You said you can work with what you have. Well, this is a perfect example for the
Right.
Texans. You can work with what you have, and they're not working with it. If you're that good, okay, if you can work what you have, you should figure out what the problem is with David Johnson and get him more involved and get him to produce more than what he's been doing.
Well, I'll
So this
say
is a
this
David
too.
Johnson problem.
I'll say this too because I agree, but at the same time, first of all, whoever I don't know the name of the interim head coach. I really don't. But
Romeo
he's
Cornell.
all right. He is going after what Bill O'Brien did in the first 6 games of the season, or five. My bad, because he got fired after that loss to the Vikings. I think no, not the loss to the Vikings.
He got
I
fired after
I
he
can't
lost to the
remember.
Vikings.
Actually, the loss. Oh yeah, all right, yeah. Then that's what it was. Yeah. So he trusted Deshaun Watson too much. Now that's not a problem. It really isn't. But sometimes you got to give them the run. Like you said, you can't always get them throwing. And but at the same time, it's also on the receiving end's fault because they gotta perform. They gotta go after those passes. You know, those nice passes. They gotta go after them. They gotta catch them. They gotta be aggressive offensively, and they just haven't been. And you know, I think the Texans, they're in a very very tough situation right now because at like you said, that traded DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson. Bill O'Brien also traded off because that was Bill O'Brien's doing because he was a GM. He wanted to trade out DeAndre Hopkins, and that's what he did. And he traded off his first and second round picks. And you know what? For the next draft and the draft after that. So you know what? Here's the problem with the Texans. They need, like you said, they need to work with what they got because they're not going to get a first and second round pick player for the next 2 years because they traded off DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson. And honestly, it's going to be very tough for them because, without that first and second round pick, they got to really look deep into the free agency market and see who they can get that's going to be valuable.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But now you got a new GM. You should
Yeah,
have a new GM by then. Hopefully, you can make better decisions than what Bill O'Brien did to set your team up for success.
absolutely.
All right, now my third loser this week, Drew Lock. Now I don't really want to give him this, but I was like really looking at people, and I was trying not to repeat people that you were doing. So Drew Lock was the one that came up. I didn't want to do Andy Dalton. So I mean, like he had 254 passing yards, not bad, but he also had two interceptions with no TDs. And I get it's against the Chiefs and everything, but at this type of game, you need to ball out offensively against the Chiefs, and he just didn't do that.
Absolutely.
When you have zero, when your TD ratio to interception ratio is not that great, and the score is not proving anything, then there's a problem. And so the problem here, I think, was Drew Lock in this game. He wasn't scoring correct. He wasn't scoring like he should have been. He threw two picks. You weren't protecting the ball well. You let the Kansas City Chiefs defense basically destroy you. I mean, they didn't destroy they didn't destroy the Broncos as much as the football team destroyed the Cowboys. But again, you let it happen, and it's something you shouldn't have done. And he got hurt. I'm wishing him a recovery. I wishing him well because I know he did get hurt with his leg, but this is just something that you can't be doing. You can't. You got to always protect that ball. And I think when a quarterback has more interceptions than TDs, I think you really can't call it a win.
Well, I'll say this, and I absolutely agree with you. But I want to add on something. that Chiefs defense isn't as good as everybody says it is. You and me have been saying this for the last couple of seasons now. That Chiefs defense it's just not that great. It's good, but it's not great. It's not great like the Steelers defense, which is absolutely deadly. The Broncos should have taken advantage of that. The Chargers of all teams exploited that team's defense. We exploited the defense's weaknesses in week 2. The Patriots did the same as that thing without Cam Newton. They exploited that defense's weaknesses, even though it was very close for most of the game, and the Chiefs ended up winning that game. They still exploited the team's the defensive weaknesses. I think that's something. And same thing with the Raiders. The Raiders exploited their defense weaknesses too. I think with those 3 teams in mind, I think the Broncos really should have taken advantage of that. Because, like I said before, that the Chiefs defense isn't that great. If I had to say do I say they're a top 15 defense in the league? Yes, but they're not. I don't think they're that great. I really don't. And I think the Broncos should have taken advantage of that, and they just they failed to do so.
All right. You want to get to the injuries this week?
Let me get to the injuries real quick.
All right. We want to start with
We'll talk about Andy Dalton first because this one's a little bit of an interesting one.
Okay.
All right. So I want to ask you something, Mario, because Andy Dalton in that game with the team with no name. I like calling him that. That's very interesting. But anyway, when Andy Dalton went to run for the ball, John Bostic hit him with hit Andy Dalton with a helmet to helmet. Now I looked at the footage. I looked at the footage, and I wasn't because I didn't have that game that week. That wasn't available for me. But I went back and I watched the footage, and it's tough. I want to hear what you think because I watched that footage and I can't necessarily tell if it was intentional or not. What do you think?
Yeah, he it's a tough one too, and the reason why I say it's tough is because if you watch the video, for people, if you just watch it and you pause, if you look at John Bostic, his shoulder is facing towards Andy Dalton before Andy Dalton even attempts to slide. So he had the intentions of hitting him. Do I know where exactly? No, I really don't. Maybe it was intentionally for the head. I have no clue. But all I know is he had his shoulder out, looking like he was about to run his shoulder into him before Andy Dalton could slide. And so Andy Dalton slid, and he got him in the head. Now it's not like I compare this one to the Teddy one when Teddy a few years ago, like 5 years ago, whatever it was, when Teddy slid and the guy hit him in the head. It looks very similar to that one, except if you watch that one, the guy who hit Teddy on the Rams, he was like flexing and everything like that. John Bostic after that play was flexing, so he wasn't like bragging or gloating or nothing. He sees the flag go up and he like puts his hands up and everything like that. But here's the problem with what John Bostic did. This is Andy Dalton, okay? This isn't Lamar. This is Andy Dalton. And you see Andy Dalton running. And I think the shoulder lead was a little unnecessary because if you were going to run towards Andy Dalton just regularly, most likely he was going to slide. You get what I'm saying? He was going to slide anyway. So I don't think there was no need to attempt a hit on Andy Dalton. I get you trying to make plays for your team, but at that point, you were already beating the cow really bad. So I don't think it was really necessary for John Bostic to initiate a hit. Do I think he deserves to be suspended for it? People are going to not like this opinion, but no, because people are going to not like this opinion, but no. So no. But I will say this. He does deserve a fine. And the reason why, and obviously a head-to-head contact is definitely going to get a fine. A shoulder to the head is definitely going to get a fine. I don't think he should be suspended for this because if you just look at the video, okay? He leans in with his shoulder before Andy Dalton even attempts to slide. Do I know intentionally what he wanted to hit? No. Maybe he intentionally did want him in the head, and he did that. Maybe he wanted to get him in the chest with a clean hit, with a clean hard hit. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? Maybe he would have like lowered and like got him in the legs. I don't know. I don't know exactly what would happen because Andy Dalton slid. But this is not, I don't think this should result in a suspension. I think he should probably get like a $15,000 fine maybe, you know?
Yeah.
But suspension wise, I don't think it needs to go that far.
I'll say this. And by the way, for anybody watching, I'll put that video in the link in the description down below if you want to check it out for yourselves. Just so you don't have to go through that extra trouble. But I'll say this. All right. It's tough to tell if it was intentional or not, but I personally think it wasn't. strictly because of the way he reacted. If it was intentional, he wouldn't have had his head above his head, be like, "Oh no, I just hit this dude in the head." Like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Someone like the dude that hit Teddy in the head, that's intentional because he got up and was celebrating. I do agree with you. I don't think he should be suspended. I do think he should be fined, whether it was intentional or not. It deserves a fine. That's a rule in the NFL. You cannot do helmet to helmet. That was the punishment for Vontaze Burfict. He was constantly hitting guys in the head, and you know what? As a result of last year, I forgot who he hit in the head last season when he was on the Raiders, and he got an indefinite suspension. You know what? That's on him. But I think this is different. I don't think there was any clear intent in it. I think he just botched the play. We all make mistakes and stuff, but this is something different. This is a head to head. This is a helmet to helmet. That's gonna cost you. That's gonna cost you. I won't say he did intentionally because strictly the way he reacted kind of told me, all right, I don't think he intended on doing that. But helmet to helmet is a fine in the NFL, and I think he should be fined. Now, let me go a little further than this because I actually read up on what happened after the game. This is pretty interesting. I'm going back to Mike McCarthy here. I already ripped the Cowboys a new one. I'll do it again. All right. And this is what he said. I can't really tell what his pure intent is on this, but this is what he said after the game in the press conference. And this is the tweet via Joe Macha. I definitely butchered that last name. It's whatever. But this is what he said. He said, Mike McCarthy on no Cowboys players getting in John Bostic's face after his dirty hit on Andy Dalton. Quote, and I quote, "We speak all the time about playing for one another, protecting one another. It definitely was not the response you would expect." I'm gonna take this both ways. And the reason why I'm gonna do that is because I don't necessarily know what he means by that. I will say this. I respect him for saying protect your players. That is exactly what you do as teammates. You play with each other, you protect one another. It's that simple. But you got to understand something. And this is why I'm starting to question Mike McCarthy's legitimacy as a coach. You're really going to tell your players to get up in his face? Let me tell you something. Is that what you want to do in the heat of a moment? In the heat of the moment. You tell your players to get up in his face. It's going to lead to a confrontation, maybe a fight. You don't do things like that. I can't believe he literally went up on the record and said, "I can't believe you said these players and say things." Let me tell you something. This is the NFL in 2020. The rules are soft. All right, whether you fought or not doesn't matter. You say one thing and it falls in a confrontation, you're going to get in trouble. If this was 1979, this wouldn't have been a problem. This is 2020 in the NFL. You can't go up here and say, "Oh yeah, you should have said something." I get all that, but you're telling your players to say something. It's going to lead to a fight. It's going to lead to more fines, more suspensions probably, and then you're going to put your team in an even bigger pickle than what they already are now. I don't know what this dude's to be honest, I don't know what this dude's intention is anymore. I'm starting to
first of all,
see as a coach.
Well, first of all, I'm not really gonna touch upon this Mike McCarthy thing for number one because we don't know what he meant. Number one, we don't. Okay, it couldn't. Maybe he meant like maybe he wanted to say punch him in the face. Maybe he wanted to say get into his face. Maybe he wanted to just yell at him, tell him back off, or whatever it was. I don't know. We don't know what Mike McCarthy's intentions were in saying that. But I will say this. This is where I disagree with you completely. First of all, if you're a player and your quarterback gets hit like that, you can't tell me that you wouldn't get up in his face, Nate. If that hit happened in front of you with your quarterback, you cannot look at me with a straight face and be like and say I wouldn't have done nothing.
You're absolutely correct. Let me stop you right there. You're absolutely correct. I would do that because I'm just that much of a hothead sometimes. But the problem is that's one player. That's one player. You're telling all of your players to do that. That's a problem. You can't be telling all your players go get up in his face. You're basically losing your entire team.
But it's the thing. Here's the thing. Look, you're not going to get suspended. And most likely, if you get into his face, you're not going to get suspended. We've seen Jalen Ramsey and Golden Tate get into a huge fist fight, okay, over literally almost nothingness. And both of them are playing the next week. So we can't say that if a fight happened, all of them are going to get suspended.
Well,
okay?
I'll also say this.
We can't say that. Let me finish. We can't say they would have got suspended. All right? That number one, that wouldn't have happened. Okay? John Bostic even if a fight did break out, John Bostic would have been probably the most in danger of getting suspended. Maybe they would have. Who knows? But most likely, if you're gonna let Jalen Ramsey and Golden Tate get into a huge fist fight on the field after the game, then there's no need. Then most likely they wouldn't have done this.
See,
And I don't think it would have led to. I don't think it would have led to anything huge. I think even the Washington football team knew that. I think even the Washington football team knew that it was a dirty hit. So I think what really happened was Cowboys guys get in their face, Washington football team gets in their face. Okay, a lot of bickering and chatting would have gone on, maybe some pushing, and it would have got stopped. I don't think there would have been a huge fist fight, to be honest. I really
well,
don't.
see,
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I get what you're saying, but all I'm saying is I disagree with it. I
well,
disagree.
here's
I'm
my
not saying
thing
I could.
because and I respect your opinion, by the way. But here's the problem with and here's why I have a problem with him saying that. You got to make sure your players are disciplined. You can't. I understand in the heat of a moment that something like that happens. Yeah, one player is gonna, but you got to remember you got to play it out in the correct way. All right, I don't necessarily know what his true intent was, but the way it said it kind of screams, oh yeah, See,
All right.
that's what I think with that. It's like this disciplinary version of that is why I don't like what he said. It's because you're telling all your players say that one of them's going to have a different intent, and that's just going to lead to one problem after another. It's just,
Yeah.
I think personally, the discipline in that was just absolutely disgusting, and I
Well,
think he should have worded that a little better.
I'll say this. I'll say, as a coach, I wouldn't have said what he said. I wouldn't have called out my team in that moment. If you
Right.
asked me, what do I think about the John Bostic hit? I would have said it's a dirty play. It's an
Absolutely.
unnecessary play. Blah. That's what I would have said. Any coach would have said that too. But I wouldn't have said. I wouldn't have exactly said, "Oh, my team should have stood up for him" or whatever like that. Here's the thing, Nate. Let me ask you something. If John Bostic's intention was to initiate head contact to Andy Dalton's head, right?
Mhm.
Which he did, and the team didn't do nothing, right? What would you do if you were a player? Or what would you expect your players to do if it continuously happened? They just kept headhunting every single play because you didn't do anything the first time. This is what I'm saying. Look, we stick up for each other. I want my players, okay, to get around Andy Dalton and make sure he doesn't get hurt anymore because he's already on the ground. And I want them to go and I want them to stand up and confront the other team and be like, not saying swing at them or punch them or nothing like that, but I
Right.
want you to confront the other team and be like, hey, look, excuse me, what is that for? Okay, well, like this is it's unnecessary what you did, and you better and just back up. It's as simple as that. And maybe Washington football team would have gotten in their face. Okay, maybe some
Mhm.
pushing would have happened, but at that point, we got to protect our players. And I'm a no nonsense guy. If that happens in front of me, I'm stepping in front of my quarterback to make sure he doesn't get hurt, and I'm confronting that team like, hey, you better like check yourself back.
Oh, I definitely am too. But my problem, and I agree with you, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but here's the thing. What I'm saying is this: the coach can't say that in the media,
Right, I agree.
especially on the media.
That part, I agree with you. That
He
part,
can,
when they ask you about the hit, you should be
right?
confronting the hit, not your players how they reacted to the hit. We're not asking about that. You should if the media asks about that personally as a coach, I'm skipping that question.
In the player's
I'm
perspective, because I'm like this in baseball, and I've done this a lot of times. When my player when my teammate gets intentionally hit, the first thing I do, I get up on the field like, "Yo, what's good, man? What's up with it? Why are you doing this?" I think when it comes to things like that, that's something the players need to talk about. The coaches can't go up on there and say stuff like they can say it in the locker room when there's no media. That's fine. Because I've had my coach do that a couple of times. But when you're on the media, if you really think about it, it kind of especially when things go out on the media. That's why you got to be very, very careful with how you say things because he just made himself look very undisciplined, and
right.
that's very questionable. It really is.
Right, but we don't know if he meant like we don't know
Right.
what exactly the intentions
Oh,
behind that comment were,
oh, you're
you
absolutely
know.
right.
And a lot of I take journalism class, and a lot of journalists won't. There's certain things as dumb questions to ask, and a lot of and certain no there are and certain people and certain journalists are afraid to ask those questions. So I gave that comment and somebody goes, "Can you be more specific than that?" That would just annoy Mike McCarthy even more. It'll
Right.
get him to say something else bad. And that's why you see a lot of sports athletes have problems with journalists
Right.
because some of them just like to annoy and pick on. So with that being said, we look at his comments, and honestly, I want to get back to the hit because this hit is not more about Mike McCarthy than it is Andy Dalton. With that being said, Andy Dalton right now, he's on concussion protocol. He's in good spirit, and they're saying he's gonna fly back with Dallas.
I'm just glad he's
So it doesn't look
doing
like
good.
it doesn't look like anything extreme happened to Andy Dalton. So, it was a hard hit. He's in concussion protocol. Maybe he'll miss the next week. I don't know, but it doesn't look like this is going to be a season-ending injury. Maybe will he have later effects on life? Maybe, but like right now, it doesn't look like anything. It doesn't look like it's too serious. And so, with that being said, John Bostic, I expect him to get a $10,000, $15,000 fine for the hit.
Maybe more.
I read a website, radio.com, and they said that the NFL is not expected to suspend John Bostic, which I don't think he should be suspended on personally,
Right.
because he leaned in with his shoulder before the slide even happened. And if they do suspend him, it's probably not gonna. It shouldn't even be that. It shouldn't even be a big suspension. Maybe 1 or 2 games. You know what I'm saying? At
Right.
most. But they're not. Most likely, it's not expected to be. He's not expected to be suspended.
Well,
And with that being said, I just want to end this with I hope Andy Dalton, hope it didn't leave too many like long lasting effects on him, and I hope he's
much respect to
gets
the
ready for the rest of the season.
much respect to the brother. Strong man for taking that hit. Without any like confirmed serious threats to his health, and it's tough man for that. Now we're on the topic of injuries. OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. out for the rest of the year. Torn ACL. Mario, man, this was a tough one. He's on your fantasy team, am I right? Or is
Yeah,
that yeah?
yeah, I'm gonna have to either like put him on reserve or drop him. I
Ah,
might drop him because I'm dropping because I gotta get Landry back, and
you gotta drop him because he's not.
Noah Fant's hurt too.
Yeah, he's not
Noah
even going to be
Fant's hurt too,
playing.
so that's gonna be an issue.
Not even going to be playing for
But
the rest of the season. But this isn't about fantasy. Let me ask you: let me ask you a question? Odell was actually playing relatively well up until this injury. Do you
right,
think this is going to hurt the Browns?
it's tough. It really is tough, and the reason why I said that because I was listening to like ESPN, and I think it was Max Kellerman who said this, and he said like when Odell got out of the game, somehow Baker was playing a lot better than when he was originally with Odell in the game, and blah blah blah. So it's really tough. It's really tough, and maybe it's just because it's the Bengals defense, and I'll go with that. It's probably because it's just the Bengals defense, and that's why he was playing good. He had that one bad pass, and that was it. But overall, I think this will hurt the Browns. I think this will. I think it'll give. I think it shows you they got a lot of other good wide receivers backing up Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry, and Bryant and Higgins and not Higgins. I'm sorry. Let me look up. Let me get the guy's name real quick. Um, they got some good backup receivers, to kind of like pick up the load. But again, not having Odell Beckham on your team, that's gonna be really tough for the Browns. So I think this will hurt them, But again, this causes more troubles with the Browns because they just got a Rashad Higgins. That's his name. Rashad Higgins is a really good wide receiver, and so again, this causes more struggles for the Browns. Baker Mayfield has to play better than what he originally has been playing like, you know. He played really well last game. Then now Kareem Hunt's got to play even better because you're down a star wide receiver. And and personally, and personally, that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to the Browns. Overall, everybody has to improve to fill that void of Odell Beckham Jr. But if they can all improve to fill that void of Odell Beckham Jr., then I don't think anything changes. But everybody has to improve even more than what they've been doing now. Jarvis Landry has to play like a number one wide receiver. Rashad Higgins and Harrison Bryant, those two backup receivers, they have to in order to fill that void of Odell Beckham Jr. That's what it's gonna come down to. Odell Beckham's gonna be with them in spirit. Odell Beckham, I think knowledge wise might help these young wide receivers get better in their game because he's been through a lot. But overall, Brown everybody on the Browns offense is all gonna have to fill that void. in order to be better. And I think the person who has the most to prove, or the person that has the most to the person that needs to mostly improve is probably Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt needs to start running better. Well, he's running very good, but he needs to run even better now, especially that
Now
there's
that
no Nick Chubb
Odell,
now.
now
There's
that
no Odell
Odell's
Beckham.
gone,
So
Nick Chubb.
so Kareem Hunt, I think, is the guy who really has to improve. He has to improve that running game just a little bit more to fill that void of Odell Beckham Jr.
I agree with you, and it's tough, like you said, because it's leaning on yes and no. Because last year Odell wasn't playing like Odell, but this year was a little different. He was starting to get that magic back again, like he did in his first year he played.
Right.
And I honestly thought that if he didn't get injured, he would have probably been one of the comeback players of the year. Easy as that, because he was not Odell Beckham Jr. Odell Beckham Jr. was not Odell Beckham Jr. last year. It's that simple. This dude was like, this dude did not show up, but now he's starting to show up. That game against the Cowboys, I forgot how many touchdowns he ran for. Well, not touchdowns, receivings. He was going off in it, and he showed me that this guy is really showing up again. He's actually coming back, and he's proven to be a quality player again. And it sucks that now he's injured because he had that magic within him, and now it's just out of him now that he's injured. And I think I think this might if the Brown I'll say this because I can't really give you a definite answer on this one because it's very very tough. I'll say this, like you said, if the Browns can build around their players and those players that they're built that they're using to build around Odell, filling in for Odell, if they can show up and do their job, I personally don't think this is going to hurt Odell. Not Odell, excuse me, the Browns. But if they don't do that, then it's going to hurt the Browns. I personally think this is a 50-50. I can't really give you a definite answer on this because it can go both ways. It really depends on what the Browns do moving forward, and not even just the Browns in general. I think the players need to start showing us. So, like you said, Kareem Hunt, needs to show up as well. Jarvis Landry needs to show up too. Not Nick Chubb and Odell aren't here. They're both injured. They're out for the year. So, you know, it's playing on both sides. The team itself needs to keep doing what they're doing moving forward, but in terms of the team, the players need to as well. So I think personally this can go both ways.
I agree. I think it sides a little bit with they're gonna hurt a little bit from Odell just because everybody has to do a little more than what they've been doing. Even though they've been playing decent and good, they gotta do a little bit more. And so now Kevin Stefanski, now he might have to change up that playbook a little bit to better suit the two or three new wide receivers that they got with Harrison Bryant, Donovan People-Jones, and Rashad Higgins. But but overall, if they can all improve just a little bit more, if they can just make a little bit more changes to fill that void of Odell Beckham, I think the Browns could be a playoff team this year. I think they'll play very, very well. And the other thing is the defense too. Like you let the Cincinnati Bengals get 34 points on you. Just the Cleveland Browns defense has to be better
Yeah,
too in
absolutely.
order to that. Just to
You
like
know,
even take some load off the offense.
last couple of games, they've let over 70 points. The defense has let up over 70 points. That's unacceptable. You gotta
Right.
step up. Yeah, I get the Steelers. The Steelers absolutely exploded because the Steelers are back in playoff form.
Right.
But you're in a playoff form too. So, something's gotta get and especially the Bengals, man. I get again you can make the case that Joe Burrow is the only I get that, but it's just Joe Burrow there. There's not that I'm not saying no discredit to the Bengals, but they're not as talented as you think they are. So you can't. That's unacceptable. You can't let that happen. And
Right.
I think that's the biggest part of the Browns right now. And just like a lot of teams, the Panthers defense needs to step up. Same thing with the Patriots. The Browns are in the same place as those two teams. I'm just naming a few teams just to get my point across. Same thing with the Chiefs. They need to improve on defense too. The Browns need to do what they're doing. They need to improve their defense and stop letting these points get. I'm not saying don't let any points because that's tough to ask for. Making a team not
Yeah,
score
but
any points, a lot tough to
you gotta
ask for.
reduce the amount of points that you've been letting go
Absolutely.
recently.
Absolutely. over 70 points allowed within the last 2 games is not good, and that needs some addressing.
I
Well,
agree.
I personally think I can't have a definite answer on whether this is going to hurt or not because it's tough to tell. This offensive
Right.
line is actually one of the better ones in the NFL. I surprised I'm saying that.
All right. Last topic of the day, right?
That's correct.
All right, we got Monday Night Football predictions, Nate. It's the Bears and the Rams. I think this is gonna be a good game, but I'll hear
Ooh,
from you first. Who do you got?
ooh, this one's toughy, man. This one's really tough because this is gonna be a defensive game. I'm telling you that right now. The
I
Bears
agree.
defense is absolutely insane. The Rams defense is absolutely insane. You got Aaron. You not Aaron Donald. You got Khalil Mack on one side, then Aaron Donald on the other side. The two single best defenders in the entire league. Period. They're going at it. I think this is going to be a very low scoring game. I think it's going to be a very good defensive game because both teams. The reason why both teams are doing so good right now is because of their defense. Their defense has stepped up, and the Bears' defense has always been good. The last few years, their defense has been great. It's just their offense that has problems. But it's the same thing with the Rams. The Rams defense is what's given them their success the last couple of years. That I feel like their defense is another key factor as to why they went to the Super Bowl that year. I think their offense is another reason, but I think that I was leaning more on the defensive side of it. But it's tough because this is definitely going to be a defensive game. And you know what? It's so tough to say. You know what? I got the Bears as this one. If I'm being honest with you, I think I got the Bears.
Yeah. I'm gonna disagree. I think I got the Rams, and I'm gonna tell you the reason why. So offense in general, the Rams are ranked 19th. The offense in general for the Bears, they're ranked 31st. That's one. So point
Yeah,
Rams.
I thought they were
Rank
higher than that.
rank defensive rank. The Bears are fifth. The Rams are third. 2 points go to the Rams. Passing, the Bears are 27th and the Rams are 10th. I'm sorry, 20th. I'm sorry, I wrote that wrong. The Rams are 20th in passing and the Bears are 27th. So 3 points go to the Rams. And last but not least, rushing. The Rams are number 10, are 10th in the league in rushing, surprisingly. And the Bears are 32nd in the league in rushing. They're last in
Wow.
rushing. Now, not only that, let's keep going. Okay. To give the Rams a little bit of the Bears a little bit of hope, Jared Goff has thrown 5 interceptions without a touchdown against the Bears, and that is more than any other quarterback in NFL in the Super Bowl era history. Since the first Super Bowl, Jared Goff has thrown 5 picks without throwing a single touchdown against the Bears, and that
That's
is a problem.
ridiculous. That is a problem.
Then we go to David Montgomery on the Bears, the running back for the Bears, and he has gone past 65 yards one time this whole year. And that's not cool. That's not good.
That's
That's
not good.
worse than what Ezekiel Elliott is doing it. So, and then last but not least, what I think will really hurt the Bears is this. Jason Spriggs, their offensive tackle, Khalil Mack, their linebacker, Devin Johnson, their safety, Buster Skrine, cornerback, or safe. Now he's a safety too. I'm sorry. Um, and then they're all questionable. And then you have McManus, your safety is out. So I get all these guys are questionable, but again, it can only take one serious play to and they end up out for the rest of the season or even the rest of the game. And so with that being said, the only person on the Rams, but this is a big person for the Rams that is out. Not out. He's questionable. Tyler Higbee, the tight end for the Rams, he is questionable too. But other than that, the Bears have more injuries. They're ranked lower than the Rams, and honestly, the Rams, I think they're right. They got a little bit of momentum going after beating the who they beat last week.
They beat the Oh wow, good question. Who did they beat last week?
They beat some good. They beat a good team. I forgot who it was.
The Rams. If this thing can load. Oh, my bad. Week 6, right? We're in
Yeah.
week 7. Alright, so I gotta go back to week 6. They beat the Rams beat. Oh, the Rams lost last week. Never mind. They lost to the 49ers. That's right. That's
Oh,
right.
they lost last week.
The Bears beat the
Right.
Panthers last week.
But I think the Rams beat the Panthers.
Yeah, no, the Bears beat the Panthers last week.
Oh, the Bears beat the Panthers. Okay.
Yeah.
So the Bears are riding a wave, and the Rams just came off a loss to the Niners. But I think with the division that they're in, I think they've been holding their own in this division against this solid division. in the Cardinals, the Niners, the Seahawks. So I think that the Rams are gonna come in. I think the Rams are gonna beat the Bears. I can't see this game going more than like a 10-point differential. I can't see a team going past 30 points in this game. I could be wrong, but I don't see it. I think it's gonna be a defensive game. I agree with you on that, but I think the Rams are just overall better than the Bears, even though despite them being good teams and despite the records, I think the Rams are just overall a better team, and I expect the Rams to win tonight. So we got two
Mm,
different predictions today, huh?
yeah, that's a first. And it's going to be a very
All right.
interesting game. Bears at Rams tonight, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. And that is all we got today for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I am your host, Soupy. That is your other host, M-Carp. We got episode 8. Episode 8 tomorrow. We're close to the double digits. We're getting there. Anyway, we'll see you guys in the next episode.
See ya.
Peace.